comes a time in your life when something feels off. You can't quite put it into words, but you know it's there. Maybe you wake up one morning and feel strangely disconnected from your routine. What once felt familiar now feels forced, like a life that no longer belongs to you. The conversations that used to excite you now seem empty. The people around you, the ones you once felt so in sync with, now seem distant, as if you're looking at them through a fogged-up window. And in the quiet moments when no one else is around, you hear it, a whisper in the back of your mind telling you something is about to change. Most people ignore this feeling. They dismiss it as stress, as a phase, as nothing more than overthinking. But what if it isn't? What if this is the moment before everything in your life shifts in a way you can't reverse? What if this discomfort isn't a problem, but a signal, one that only a few people are wise enough to recognize? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." The Stoics never feared change. They understood that transformation is inevitable, and the only question is whether you will embrace it or resist it. This is not just another video about self-improvement. This is a guide to recognizing the subtle, powerful signs that your life is on the verge of something new. By the end of this, you will not only understand why these feelings happen, you will know how to see them for what they truly are. So now, ask yourself, have you ever felt that something big was coming, but you couldn't explain it? If so, this is your wake-up call. Let's begin. 1. You feel an unexplainable restlessness. You wake up one morning and something feels different. The things that used to excite you now seem dull. The routine that once brought you comfort now feels suffocating. You look around and everything is the same. Your job, your relationships, your daily habits. But inside, something is shifting. You can't explain why, but there's a nagging sense that you're meant for something more, that the life you've been living is no longer enough. At first, you try to ignore it. You tell yourself it's just a passing mood, that you should be grateful for what you have. But the feeling doesn't go away. In fact, it grows stronger. This is not boredom, it's not dissatisfaction, it's something deeper, a primal signal from within telling you that change is coming. The Stoics believed that life is constantly in motion, and resisting change only leads to suffering. Epictetus once said, "Circumstances do not make the man, they only reveal him to himself." When you start feeling restless, it's not because the world has changed, it's because you are changing. Your old life is revealing itself as something you've already outgrown. Most people suppress this feeling. They distract themselves with entertainment, social media, or meaningless busyness, convincing themselves that everything is fine. But ignoring the signs doesn't stop change from happening. In fact, it only makes the transition more painful when it inevitably arrives. The key is to recognize that restlessness is not a problem. It's a message. It's life's way of preparing you for what's next. Instead of resisting, you must embrace it. So how do you do that? Start by asking yourself some difficult questions. What parts of your life feel misaligned? What activities drain you rather than energize you? Who do you spend time with that no longer inspires you? Write these things down. Make them real. Once you see them clearly, you'll begin to understand that this restlessness isn't a curse. It's a call to action. It's your mind and soul pushing you towards something greater. The biggest mistake people make when they feel this way is assuming they need to have all the answers right away. They panic, thinking they must immediately know their next move, or else they are failing. But the Stoics understood that clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from movement. When Marcus Aurelius felt uncertain, he reminded himself, "Do not waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies to you. Don't waste time overanalyzing why you feel restless. Take a small step, try something new, change your routine, explore a different path. Maybe this means picking up a book on a subject you've never explored before. Maybe it means reaching out to someone who is already living the kind of life you aspire to. Maybe it means quitting something that has been draining your energy for too long. Whatever it is, action is the antidote to uncertainty. The moment you start moving, the fog begins to lift. If you're feeling restless right now, don't suppress it. Lean into it. Ask yourself, what is my restlessness trying to tell me? Because the truth is, no one stays the same forever. You are either growing or you are staying stagnant. And if you've made it this far, deep down, you already know which path you're meant to take. So now, let me ask you, have you ever felt this kind of restlessness before? Looking back, what changed in your life afterward? Share your experience below, because someone else might be feeling the same thing right now, and your story could be the sign they need. 2. The people around you. Start feeling different. You're sitting in a familiar place, surrounded by familiar faces, laughing at the same jokes, talking about the same things you've always talked about. But something feels different. It's not them. It's you. The conversations that once felt engaging now seem repetitive. The energy that used to excite you now feels draining. It's as if you're an outsider looking in, realizing that the version of yourself that once belonged here no longer does. At first you try to brush it off. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe it's a bad day. But the feeling doesn't go away. In fact, it grows stronger. The more you evolve, the more you notice it. The silences between conversations stretch longer. The interests you used to share no longer excite you. The way you see the world is shifting, and the people around you, no matter how much you once loved them, are no longer growing in the same direction. This is one of the clearest signs that your life is about to change forever. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." He knew that transformation is not just about what you learn or do, it's also about who you surround yourself with. The people in your life act as mirrors, reflecting your past, your present, and, if you choose wisely, your future. But when those mirrors stop aligning with your growth, something inside you starts pulling away. Most people fear this moment. They resist it because change in relationships feels like betrayal. We hold on to friendships, partnerships, even family dynamics, not because they serve us, but because they are familiar. The thought of outgrowing someone feels cruel, as if we are abandoning them, but the truth is, growth is not a rejection of others. It is an acceptance of who you are becoming. When you feel disconnected from the people around you, it's not a sign of selfishness. It's a sign that your soul is demanding more. So how do you navigate this shift without guilt or regret? First, observe. Pay attention to how you feel around different people. Do certain conversations drain you while others ignite something inside you? Do you feel a need to shrink yourself to fit in? Do you find yourself pretending to care about things that no longer interest you? These are not coincidences. They are signals. Second, accept the reality of growth. Not every friendship, relationship, or social circle is meant to last forever. Some people are meant to be part of a certain chapter of your life, not the entire book. When you grow, you give others the chance to grow too. But if they choose to stay the same, you cannot stay small just to make them comfortable. Third, actively seek out people who reflect your future, not just your past. The Stoics didn't just emphasize wisdom, they emphasized choosing wise company. Marcus Aurelius surrounded himself with mentors, philosophers, and people who challenged his thinking. He knew that if he wanted to be great, he had to be in the presence of greatness. If you are serious about becoming the next version of yourself, you must be willing to step into rooms where you are the least knowledgeable person. Finally, let go with gratitude. Some relationships will fade naturally. Some will require difficult conversations. Others will simply dissolve as your paths diverge. But instead of mourning what was, celebrate what it gave you. Every person who has been part of your life contributed to your journey in some way. Let them go, not with bitterness, but with appreciation. Now ask yourself, have you ever felt yourself outgrowing certain relationships? What was the hardest part? If you're in this phase right now, remember, this is not an ending. It's a beginning. The people meant to be part of your next chapter are waiting, but first, you must make space for them. 3. You start feeling resistance. When trying to stay the same. There was a time when everything in your life felt natural, your habits, your routine, the way you spent your time, it all made sense. But suddenly, something has shifted. The things that once brought you comfort now feel forced. The old conversations, the familiar places, even the music you used to love. It all feels like a version of you that no longer fits. You try to slip back into old habits, telling yourself that maybe if you just keep doing what you've always done, this unsettling feeling will disappear. But it doesn't. Instead, the more you try to stay the same, the harder it becomes. What once felt effortless now feels unnatural, like forcing yourself into clothes that no longer fit. It's frustrating because on the surface, nothing has changed. But deep inside, something undeniable is happening. You are evolving, and your old self is resisting. This resistance is one of the strongest indicators that transformation is underway. Growth doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens in the quiet discomfort of trying to hold onto a life that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. And while most people mistake this discomfort for a problem, the Stoics saw it as proof of progress. They understood that stagnation is the true enemy, not change. Epictetus taught that the things we cling to the most are often the very things that hold us back. People resist change not because they don't want something better, but because the unknown terrifies them more than the dissatisfaction of staying the same. But here's the truth. If staying in your comfort zone feels increasingly uncomfortable, it's because you are no longer meant to be there. Instead of fighting this feeling, embrace it. Start by noticing the things that no longer bring you joy or fulfillment. Are there habits you force yourself to keep out of obligation rather than genuine desire? Are there commitments that drain you instead of energizing you? When you identify these areas of resistance, you'll begin to see that they are not obstacles. They are invitations to something new. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop seeing change as something happening to you and start seeing it as something happening for you. The discomfort you feel when trying to stay the same isn't a punishment. It's a sign that you're growing beyond the limits of your old identity. Instead of suppressing it, use it as fuel. Ask yourself, what excites me now? What pulls me forward, even if it scares me? This is how real transformation begins, not by forcing yourself to hold on to a past version of yourself, but by allowing yourself to step fully into who you are meant to become. So, let me ask you, have you ever tried to hold on to the past, only to realize it no longer fit? What finally made you let go? Share your experience below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. 4. You begin losing interest in superficial things. There was a time when the chase excited you. The pursuit of status, approval, and material success felt like the ultimate goal. You cared about what people thought of you. You wanted the right clothes, the right car, the right image. The validation of others fueled your confidence, and the admiration of the crowd felt like proof that you were on the right path. But something has changed. Lately, the things that once mattered so much now feel empty. You no longer feel the rush of excitement when people praise you. You no longer find satisfaction in accumulating things. The thrill of buying something new fades almost instantly. The conversations about social status, luxury, and comparison now seem trivial. You find yourself craving something deeper, something real. This is one of the most undeniable signs that your life is about to shift in a profound way. When your desires begin to move from external rewards to internal fulfillment, you are stepping into a new level of self-awareness. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True freedom, they believed, was not about acquiring more, it was about needing less. What you're experiencing is not a loss of motivation, it's a shift in priorities. You are realizing that external validation is fleeting, that no amount of wealth or admiration can fill an internal void, that no possession can replace purpose. When this shift begins, it can be unsettling. The things that once excited you now feel meaningless, but you might not yet know what will replace them. This is where most people panic. They assume they are losing themselves, when in reality, they are shedding a version of themselves that was built on illusions. So how do you navigate this transition? First, question everything you once chased. Did you really want it, or were you conditioned to want it? Were you truly happier when you had more, or was it just a distraction from something deeper? Reflect on the moments when you felt the most fulfilled. Not entertained, not admired, but truly at peace. What were you doing? Who were you with? What mattered in those moments? The answers to these questions will reveal what your soul is truly craving. Next, start aligning your actions with your new values. If you no longer find meaning in material things, invest in experiences that challenge and enrich you. If external approval no longer excites you, begin cultivating inner confidence that doesn't rely on validation. This is not about rejecting success, but redefining what success means to you. Finally, embrace the discomfort of this change. Losing interest in superficial things can make you feel disconnected from the world around you. You may start to feel like an outsider, watching people obsess over things that no longer hold meaning for you. But this is a good sign. It means you are stepping into a version of yourself that is no longer controlled by illusion. So, what's one thing you used to care about but no longer does? What was the moment that changed your perspective? Share your story below, because someone else might be experiencing the exact same shift and need to hear they're not alone. 5. Unexpected opportunities or challenges start appearing. One day, everything feels predictable. You know what to expect, what's coming next, how things usually play out. And then, suddenly, life shifts. An unexpected job offer appears out of nowhere. A door that you thought would always be open abruptly closes. A random encounter leads to a conversation that changes the way you see the world. You weren't planning for this. You weren't looking for it. But it's here, and now you're faced with a choice. Will you embrace the unknown, or will you cling to what's familiar? Most people assume that change happens gradually. That transformation is something you ease into over time. But the truth is, some of the biggest turning points in life arrive without warning. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle is the way." He believed that when change is meant to happen, the universe will test you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. If your life is about to shift in a major way, it will not always happen gently. Sometimes it happens through disruption, through an opportunity you weren't expecting, through a challenge that forces you to level up. At first, these moments can feel overwhelming. If an opportunity appears, doubt creeps in. Am I ready? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? If a challenge arises, resistance kicks in. Why is this happening to me? Why now? But here's the truth. When life presents you with something unexpected, it's not random. It's a direct reflection of your readiness, even if you don't feel ready yet. Think back to a time when something unexpected changed your life. Maybe you lost a job, only to find a better one. Maybe a relationship ended, only for you to discover a version of yourself you never knew existed. Maybe a chance encounter introduced you to an idea, a mentor, or an opportunity that set you on a completely different path. These moments often feel chaotic in the beginning, but when you look back, you realize they weren't interruptions, they were invitations. So how do you respond when life throws the unexpected at you? The first step is to stop seeing surprises as disruptions and start seeing them as signals. If a door closes, it's because you're not meant to walk through it. If an opportunity arrives, it's because something inside you is ready to rise to the occasion, even if fear tells you otherwise. The second step is to practice saying yes before fear talks you out of it. When something new presents itself, your mind will immediately find reasons to hesitate. It will tell you you're not ready, that it's not the right time, that you need more preparation. But hesitation is just fear disguised as logic. If an opportunity excites you, take it. If a challenge makes you uncomfortable, lean into it. Growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in the moments where you are forced to adapt. Finally, trust the bigger picture. The Stoics believed in amor fati, the love of fate. The idea that everything happening is happening for you, not to you. That every unexpected turn, every disruption, every closed door is a necessary part of your path. If you are facing an unexpected shift in your life right now, remember this. It is not here to break you, it is here to shape you. So, let me ask you, Has an unexpected event ever changed your life? What was the moment that, looking back, you now realize was the turning point? Share your story below, because someone else might be standing at that moment right now, unsure of what to do next, and your words might be the sign they need. 6. Your inner voice becomes stronger. There comes a moment when the noise of the world starts to fade and something else rises in its place, your own voice. At first, it's subtle, a quiet questioning of things you once accepted without thought. A feeling that some of the beliefs, routines, and even relationships you've built no longer fit. The more you listen, the stronger it becomes. You start to feel an internal pull, an undeniable sense that something needs to change. But here's where most people falter. They ignore it. They drown it out with distractions, convince themselves that it's just doubt or fear or overthinking. But what if it's not? What if this voice isn't something to silence, but something to trust? Socrates once said, "Know thyself, and you will know the universe." The Stoics understood that true change doesn't come from the outside. It starts from within. Before your external world shifts, your internal world does first. That's why when your life is about to change, the first sign isn't always something dramatic happening around you. It's the shift happening inside you. You begin to see things more clearly. You start to recognize what no longer aligns with your values. You feel an urgency, a call to do something different, even if you can't quite explain why. The mistake most people make is doubting this intuition. They assume that if they don't have all the answers, they must be wrong. That if their inner voice contradicts what others are saying, they must be lost. But the truth is, clarity doesn't come from external validation. It comes from listening to yourself. The reason you feel this pull is because deep down, you already know what you need to do. The only thing standing in your way is fear. The fear of uncertainty, the fear of change, the fear of stepping into something unfamiliar. So how do you strengthen this inner voice instead of silencing it? The first step is to stop dismissing your instincts. When something doesn't feel right, there's a reason. When you feel drawn towards something new, it's not random. Pay attention. Keep a journal of the thoughts and feelings that keep surfacing. Notice the patterns. The more you acknowledge them, the clearer they become. The second step is to create space for silence. The modern world is designed to keep you distracted. Constant notifications, endless entertainment, people's opinions bombarding you from every direction. But growth requires stillness. Take time to be alone with your thoughts. Go for a walk without your phone. Spend time in nature. Meditate. The more you remove the external noise, the more your inner voice can rise. Finally, act on it. Trust doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. If your intuition is telling you something, don't just acknowledge it, test it. If a relationship feels misaligned, set boundaries and see how it shifts. If a job feels wrong, explore what excites you instead. If you feel drawn toward a new path, take the first step, even if it's small. The more you act in alignment with your inner voice, the louder and more confident it becomes. So, let me ask you, has your intuition ever led you to a major breakthrough? What happened when you finally listened? Share your story below, because someone else might be on the verge of a decision right now, and your experience could be the sign they need. 7. You experience an emotional breaking point. It often happens when you least expect it. One moment, You're holding everything together, managing life as usual. Then something shifts. Maybe it's a loss of a job, a relationship, a dream you held on to for too long. Maybe it's a betrayal, a failure, or a moment where you realize the life you've built no longer fits who you are. Whatever it is, it shakes you to your core. You feel the weight of it pressing down, the sharpness of it cutting through everything you thought you knew. You reach a point where you can't ignore it anymore, and for the first time you wonder, is this the end of something, or the beginning of something greater? The Stoics believed that suffering is the greatest test of a person's character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Pain is not meant to break you, it is meant to reveal you. When everything falls apart, when emotions are raw and unfiltered, you see yourself with brutal honesty. You see what truly matters, what you can no longer tolerate, and what needs to change. This moment, the breaking point, is not a sign of weakness. It's a doorway to transformation. Most people resist it. They numb themselves with distractions, run back to old habits, or try to pretend that nothing is wrong. But the truth is, ignoring pain doesn't make it disappear. It just delays the breakthrough waiting on the other side. If you are experiencing an emotional breaking point right now, it is not the end of you. It is the shedding of everything that no longer serves you. So how do you turn this pain into power? First, stop fighting it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Pain is not random. It comes to show you what needs to change, to push you towards something greater. The worst thing you can do is waste it. Second, let go of what is collapsing. If something is falling apart, it's because it was never meant to last in the form it was in. Whether it's a relationship, a career, or a belief about yourself, something is breaking so that something better can be built. The longer you cling to what is crumbling, the more suffering you create for yourself. Finally, use it as fuel. Some of the most powerful transformations come from people who turn their lowest moments into their greatest strength. The Stoics knew that resilience is not built in comfort. It is forged in hardship. The way forward is not in avoiding pain, but in embracing it, learning from it, and allowing it to sharpen you. So now let me ask you, what's one challenge that made you stronger? How did you grow from it? Share your story below, because someone else might be going through their breaking point right now, and your words could be the reminder that this is not the end, it's the beginning. 8. You start seeing the bigger picture. There was a time when small inconveniences ruined your day. A harsh word from someone, a minor failure, an unexpected change in plans. These things used to feel like the end of the world. But now, something is different. The things that once triggered stress no longer have the same effect. You've stopped obsessing over what people think, stopped overreacting to temporary setbacks, stopped clinging to things that don't truly matter. It's not that you've stopped caring, it's that you've started caring about something bigger. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens after life humbles you a few times. You experience loss, disappointment, and uncertainty, and suddenly, your priorities realign. You realize that most of the things you once worried about were distractions, that success and failure, praise and criticism, winning and losing are all just passing moments in a much larger story. And when you start to see life this way, a sense of peace settles in. You are no longer controlled by every fleeting emotion. You've stopped playing small. The Stoics had a name for this perspective: memento mori. Remember, you will die. It wasn't meant to be depressing. It was meant to be liberating. When you truly understand that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't serve you. You stop letting temporary struggles consume you. You stop fearing failure because you realize that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. What matters is how you live while you are here. This is where real transformation begins. When you make decisions based on the long game instead of short-term emotions, you start moving differently. You stop chasing validation and start focusing on impact. You stop fearing rejection and start taking risks. You stop reacting and start choosing. So how do you apply this in daily life? The next time something frustrates you, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? If not, let it go. If a situation feels overwhelming, zoom out. See it from the perspective of your entire lifetime, or better yet, the perspective of history. Most of what we stress about is insignificant in the bigger picture, but the way we respond to it, that's what defines us. Now, I want to hear from you. What's one lesson that changed your perspective forever? How did it shift the way you see the world? Share your insight below, because the moment you start seeing the bigger picture, your life will never be the same. 9. You start letting go of the past. There comes a moment when the past no longer holds power over you. The regrets that once haunted you, the mistakes that replayed in your mind like a broken record, the grudges that weighed you down, all of it begins to lose its grip. It's not that you forget, it's that you stop allowing the past to define who you are today. At first, this shift is subtle. You stop feeling the urge to explain yourself to people who misunderstood you. You stop justifying past decisions that can't be undone. You realize that no matter how much you analyze what happened, it won't change the outcome. And with that realization comes something unexpected: freedom. The Stoics understood that holding on to the past is one of the greatest obstacles to peace. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Most people remain trapped in old narratives, consumed by what should have been, what could have been, instead of focusing on what can be. They replay painful moments, relive missed opportunities, and carry burdens that no longer serve them. But when you begin to detach from these stories, when you stop letting past pain dictate your future, that's when real transformation begins. Letting go doesn't mean ignoring the past. It means accepting it. It means realizing that everything that has happened, good or bad, has shaped you, but it does not own you. You start seeing past mistakes as lessons, not as life sentences. You no longer define yourself by who you were back then, but by who you are choosing to become now. How do you know this shift is happening? You stop reacting emotionally to old wounds. The things that once triggered you no longer have the same effect. The person who hurt you, you no longer feel the need to prove anything to them. The failure that once embarrassed you, you see it as a stepping stone rather than a permanent defeat. The regret that kept you up at night, it's no longer a weight. It's just a memory. This is one of the most powerful signs that your life is about to change. Because when you stop looking backward, you finally have the clarity to move forward. The chains of past pain no longer dictate your future. You realize that the only thing keeping you tied to your past was you. And in that moment, you make a decision to let go. So how do you embrace this change? First, forgive. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of self-liberation. Next, release self-pity. The past is not your prison, it is your teacher. Every experience, no matter how painful, prepared you for this moment. Lastly, ask yourself, if my past no longer existed, who would I become today? The answer to that question will shape the next chapter of your life. Have you ever felt yourself letting go of something that used to control you? How did it change your life? Share your story, because someone else may need to hear it right now. 9-Day Stoic Transformation Challenge. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small, consistent steps. Steps that challenge your beliefs, shift your habits, and force you to see yourself in a new light. Over the next 9 days, you will embark on a journey inspired by Stoic philosophy. Each day, you will practice one of the signs of deep transformation. You will face discomfort, question old patterns, and take action in ways you've been avoiding. And by the end of it, you will no longer be the same person. Day 1. Observe your inner restlessness. Most people ignore the feeling that something is off. They brush it aside, telling themselves they're just tired, stressed, or overthinking. But what if that restlessness isn't a problem? It's a signal. Today's challenge: write down 3 things in your life that no longer feel aligned with who you are becoming. What aspects of your routine, relationships, or mindset feel outdated? Be brutally honest. Your discomfort is trying to tell you something. Are you willing to listen? Day 2. Reevaluate your relationships. The people around you either push you forward or hold you back. There is no in-between. Today, you will analyze your social circle with complete honesty. Make 2 lists, one for people who elevate you, challenge you, and inspire growth. Another for those who drain your energy, discourage change, or keep you stuck in old patterns. If your inner circle isn't aligned with where you're headed, it's time to start making adjustments. Day 3. Let go of the past. Many people sabotage their future by holding on to something that no longer serves them. A regret, a failure, a version of themselves they refuse to let go of. Today you will write a letter to your past. Address something you've struggled to release, whether it's a painful memory, an old identity, or a mistake you keep replaying. When you're done, destroy the letter. Tear it up, burn it, throw it away. This is not about forgetting, it's about making space for what's next. Day 4. Embrace discomfort. Change is always uncomfortable. That's why most people avoid it. But what if discomfort wasn't something to fear, but something to lean into? Today, you will do something uncomfortable on purpose, something that challenges your limits. Maybe it's waking up earlier, saying no to something that drains you, striking up a conversation with a stranger, or trying something completely outside your comfort zone. By the end of the day, you will realize growth and discomfort are inseparable. Day 5. Detach from external validation. Most people live their lives seeking approval, chasing likes, praise, or reassurance from others. Today, you will break that cycle. No social media, no asking for opinions, no seeking validation. Instead, do something only for yourself. Read, write, create, or make a decision without asking anyone what they think. See what it feels like to exist without the need for permission. Day 6. Pause and reflect on what truly matters. The modern world is built on distraction. We rarely sit in silence. We rarely stop to ask, what actually matters to me? Today, you will carve out 15 minutes of complete solitude. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. Ask yourself, where am I heading? Am I spending my time on things that matter? Listen to what comes up. Day 7. Take immediate action. Procrastination is the killer of transformation. The reason most people stay stuck is not because they don't know what to do. It's because they never take the first step. Today, you will break that cycle. Choose one thing you've been delaying, a message you've been meaning to send, a project you've been waiting to start, a decision you've been putting off, and do it. Not tomorrow, not later. Now, day 8. Face one of your fears. Fear is the invisible force that keeps people from stepping into the life they want. But what if fear wasn't an enemy? What if it was an invitation to growth? Today, you will deliberately do something that scares you, something small but significant. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, setting a boundary, going somewhere alone, or trying something you've been avoiding. Before you do it, write down your fear. Afterward, write down how you feel. You will realize that fear only has power when you let it. Day 9. Acknowledge your transformation. Look back at the last 8 days. What has changed? What have you realized about yourself? What did you discover that you weren't expecting? Today, you will write down 3 things you've learned about yourself through this challenge. And then, you will make a decision. What's one thing from this experience that you refuse to go back on? Transformation is not a one-time event. It is a process. And today, you decide whether this process ends here or if this is just the beginning. Final question for you. Have you completed this challenge? What changed in you? If you've made it this far, share your experience in the comments. What was the most powerful day for you? What realization hit the hardest? Your story could be the push someone else needs to start their own transformation. And if this challenge made an impact on you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs it. Let's grow together. Right now, something inside you is shifting. Maybe you've recognized one of these signs. Maybe you've felt it coming for a while, but you couldn't quite put it into words. Or maybe, just maybe, this is the confirmation you needed. Your life is changing, and there's no going back. Transformation doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It simply arrives, tearing down old beliefs, breaking apart routines, and forcing you to see yourself in a new way. The question is, will you embrace it, or will you resist it? The Stoics understood that change is the natural order of life. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Most people fear this moment because they see it as the unknown. But what if this isn't an end? What if it's a beginning? Right now, you have a choice. You can ignore the signs, stay in your comfort zone, and hope things remain the same. Or you can step forward, lean into the discomfort, and trust that this change is happening for you, not to you. So here's your challenge. Think back on the last few weeks or months. Have you noticed any of these signs? What's one moment where you felt the shift but weren't sure what it meant? Comment below and share your experience. Let's turn this into a space for transformation. And if you're ready to fully step into this new chapter, don't keep this to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe for more Stoic wisdom. because this journey isn't just about noticing change. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be.